here, and it is Victory Monday here in Arizona. ASU got their first Pac-12 win of the year over Colorado. Wasn't too much of a barn burner. Pretty boring game from start to finish. ASU was in control the entire time in the 35-13 victory. We're going to get into it, what we liked. We're going to get into the big matchup next week against UCLA coming up on Saturday. And then we're going to kind of be, I don't know, Josh, what is your opinion on the first game of Pac-12 season? And what did you see from the team that you liked and didn't like?
Yeah, I thought it was it was a good first game, to open Pac-12 conference play for the Sun Devils. We got a particularly relatively easy task in, the Colorado Buffs. They just got shut out in the previous week at home, I might add, against Minnesota, which is it's honestly a subpar, Big Ten, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big Ten program.
Wait,
I think
Colorado,
PJ.
sorry?
No, Minnesota.
Oh, yeah,
I
Minnesota.
think
Yeah, Minnesota's Big Ten, yes. And they
Yeah,
lost, by the way.
to who?
They lost to Bowling Green, I think. Minnesota
Yeah,
did.
exactly. Yeah, that was a huge upset. But no, I mean, look, Colorado just came off a 30-0 blowout loss. I mean, either way you look at it, even if they got half their starters back, this is a game that ASU should, win pretty handily, and I think we did. And I think, some of the good things I saw were, Jaden. Jaden kind of took control of this game. He really did it. He did a lot, just offensively controlling the tempo of the game. Using his legs in the right moments when he needs to, and he got the wide receivers, into this game and integrating his game plan. I think that was probably for me the biggest thing. I saw at least 2 or 3 guys who had, over 70 yards or around like maybe 50, 60, one of them. And, that's good news. That's great news for this team. This is a team that has been, highly regarded for the running back group that, we boast. And, Chip Trainum was out of this game. So I'm pretty sure he was out the week before, though. So we've kind of got those holes taped up by Rashad White, and Elijah Badger had a pretty nice little tricky run and play for a touchdown, get his confidence up. But I just saw, kind of a good overall team effort from ASU, and I saw that Jaden really got the wide receivers involved, and that was something that, was obviously uplifting to see for this team, because if we're going to, compete against some of these bigger and better teams, they're going to pretty handily figure out how to, shut down a running game if that's all we can do. But I don't know. Tell me what you thought about this game. What was one of the biggest things that you like to see?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about it before the show. I'm going to go through some of the stats that kind of pop out to me. For yardage differential for the Pac-12, ASU is now plus 667. The second best team in the Pac-12 is Oregon State at 418, plus 418 yards in their opponent. So even with a loss, ASU has 350 yards over the next closest in terms of outgetting their opponent. I think that's a lot to do with running the ball a lot, kind of controlling time of possession. And then this is all according to Pro Football Focus for the Pac-12 so far this year. It's not just the week, but Jane Daniels is coming in at number 2, only behind Chance Nolan. We saw, let's see, sorry, I wrote these down. LV Bunkley Shelton is the number 6 wide receiver so far, which, we didn't know who was going to step up. He hasn't been fantastic, but he's getting the job done, and he's still young. He's still going to at least have one more year, probably won't leave early, so at least 2 more years at the program. Very promising there. We got Rashad White as the 6th best running back so far. That could definitely be better, but, he splits time with Ngata and Trainum, so it's pretty dang good. And then we saw, lastly, where is it in my notes here? Oh, Darian Butler was the 2nd highest rated corner linebacker this year, only behind Devin Lloyd, who is a freak from Utah. So those are some of the things I liked. Another thing that I like is we're a second half team. I like that. Coaching adjustments come in. We play much better in the second half. Things I don't like. We're a second half team. I don't like that. We saw against BYU, we came out flat. We fumbled the opening kickoff, and we had an insurmountable deficit by halftime. I know we could have come back and won that game if things went different, but you can't keep digging yourself those holes. We saw it against UNLV. We saw it against Southern Utah. These penalties, although we did better in the penalties, still not where I want it to be. You want to be at 5 penalties, probably around there under. That's a disciplined football team. Holding penalties, stuff like that are going to happen. The false starts, I'm not sure if we had any roughing the passers, illegal block downfield, illegal man downfield. Those are the stuff, that you have to get rid of. And ASU's still not there yet. They took a slight step in the right direction, but there's still a lot to improve on, going into what is probably their biggest game of the year so far. If you look at their schedule, USC's toast. They have 2 losses. Utah's toast. Colorado, we already beat, and U of A stinks. So, realistically, this upcoming game, I know we're going to get into it a little bit later, but, this could really decide the Pac-12 South. So I think ASU needs to be a lot cleaner in the first half. And I think that was kind of evident against Colorado. I don't have the scoring. Yes, we were only up 14-3, and it wasn't really a convincing first half until ASU put up 21 points to Colorado's 10 in the second half. What I did really like is our pass defense. They only threw for 67 yards on 17 attempts. That's horrible. And yeah, they did run the ball a lot, which we should see from UCLA. But when you try to control the possession like we do, I'm not too worried about a team outrunning us, especially with Trey and coming back this week. So there was a lot I liked, a lot I didn't like, but a much better game than against BYU. But I still feel a lot of that BYU mishap was because of the crowd and because ASU got a little nervous and they weren't ready for the moment. So we'll see if Herm has coached these guys and if they're going to be ready for this, what I think is the biggest game of the year. And it probably won't be a bigger one unless we make a major bowl game.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. We're going to get into it a little bit later, but, it arguably is the biggest game of the season for this team, in this coming week. And, I think this game against Colorado, it was good, but when you take a look at it from our standpoint, we're going to dissect it and we're going to, nitpick because that's what we do. But this is the perfect, ASU game that they need to have, at home before they take on a tough UCLA team, to just kind of work the kinks out in this offense, get comfortable with what their game plan is going to be, and just mentally prepare for UCLA. Is that game on the road?
Yes, I believe so. It is at UCLA in the Rose Bowl.
And the Rose Bowl, you guys know that place is going to be
half full.
Half full. Hey, it's going to be half full, but you know what? When they're on the field in between the lines, it's gonna sound like a full-on game. And I expect ASU to come out with obviously a little more energy and a little more ferocity in that game because just like us, they know the implications of that game, and it's a lot of pressure, so they're gonna rise to the pressure. But it'll really be interesting to see how the fans affect this ASU team that really should have made a big jump in that department, because when you look at what we did from a penalty standpoint, just take a look at the yardage for one, how many yards we lost. But that's not even the biggest thing. The bigger thing is you're just interrupting the rhythm and the flow of your offense and the confidence of your players. It'll be really interesting to see how this team performs in that environment in this coming weekend, because it's like we've talked about, it's going to be a huge game.
Yeah, and by the way, ASU still had 7 penalties for 90 yards. That is way, way too many. 90 yards, it's almost a full touchdown's worth right there if you started on your own 1-yard line. So there's a lot that needs to be fixed, but we can transition over into our next topic and still talk about ASU if we need to as well. Just kind of talking about the Pac-12 in general, what we saw and liked and didn't like. Ups and downs for me. Oregon. I expected a lot more from you, to be honest. That is a bad team that you were playing at home. Maybe you weren't totally up for the game. Maybe, U of A switched to their third quarterback again in McLeod. Really wasn't a convincing win from Oregon for me. If you're a college football team or college football playoff team, what do you think Alabama does at home to U of A? They put up 70 on them, like it's never close. It's a dominant win, and they're up 28, 35 points before U of A even scores. So wasn't overly impressed with Oregon. Stanford is really incredible this year. They're supposed to be very, very bad. they kept it close with UCLA, who's considered probably the second best team in the Pac-12 right now, only behind Oregon. ASU probably slots in third there if I had to guess, but you know, they looked great. I really thought, they were down a majority of the game. They battled back and tied it up. And then, UCLA won late. I give Stanford a lot of credit. I'm really up on them this season. And then obviously, as we have on the screen here, Oregon State. Oregon State, what a great win to go into the Coliseum. And although that USC team is so much mayhem and shambles everywhere, it's just for how much talent USC has on that team with Drake London, with Slovis and Dart, whoever they throw in at quarterback, it was a really impressive win and a dominant win too. I think they won by 18 points. So, it really wasn't even close. I know it was close at halftime and close for a lot of the game, but Oregon State jumped all over them. So those are kind of the games that stood out for me were Oregon, Stanford, and Oregon State. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, it's right there in the title. It's just something that you have to bring up. I almost went into some fancy, semi-sarcastic name for this topic when I was gonna, just mention and reference this conference. It just seems to, trample its every little chance that it has every season to go to some kind of playoff or make a name for recruiting or put the Pac-12 on blast. And when Oregon is like barely 3 points ahead of a team that hasn't won a game in literally like 760 days, a team that just lost to NAU, they're like up 3 at halftime. Man, that is just a terrible look. That is really is for just the conference really in general. I mean, it's sad to be an Oregon fan, and I'm not an Oregon fan, but I just know that's how it is. And we can talk about Oregon State a little bit. I mean, Chance Nolan, that guy didn't even do that much. He threw 15 passes for 213 yards with 4 touchdowns, and he still threw 2 picks. But what a team effort for them to get that done. That it's hard to look at a game like that as an ASU fan because, look, we all know how us over here, especially over this past year and a half, feel about USC, their team, especially their fans. And then you got to look at it like this. We play them a little bit longer down the road, and we need them to be as good as possible, right? For our own sake. And so this is where I just get with, what I mean? Like the Pac-12 is just terrible in a sense that can any team other than Oregon like build a reputable resume for like any kind of like, let's say there's an 18 playoff next year. Do you think a Pac-12 school could make it in that's not Oregon?
I mean, next year, absolutely. I think USC easily could. I think a lot of it is based off their name too, because I mean, when you go to USC, if USC has a talented team, they're going to be a preseason ranked team. I want to say they were ranked number 20 to start this year. I mean, I want to say they were a ranked team to start the year. So like, if ASU had that same amount of talent that USC was ranked 19 or 20 with, I'd be willing to bet ASU's not ranked. I think USC definitely has a shot. I think Washington, whenever Washington's good, I'm not saying based off talent. I'm saying based off the name and if they can recruit well. I don't think Washington will be close anytime soon with the head coach that they have now. I don't think USC is going to be close because who wants to take that coaching job? We saw Clay Helton. He was there for like 6 years and was just one of the most hated men by his own team and fan base. Not team, sorry, his own fan base. But I mean, I don't know. I don't even think Oregon can do it this year. I mean, do you think Oregon's going to go undefeated? Because
you can't look at the rankings this early, and even really the only teams you can look at are really like Alabama and Georgia. I mean, look at Clemson this year.
I don't think they're ranked anymore. I think
forget the Pac-12. We're going everywhere, but this is literally upset central. I mean, Clemson lost. Like the 2 teams that you could really take, a solid look at and say, wow, those are actually like football or playoff football teams is like Bama and Georgia. And, right now, what is Oregon? Oregon's up there at like 3 or like
they're 3
up. That's ridiculous.
So,
I mean,
hear me out.
Like
they're at 3.
I'm talking straight to the guys who vote for this. Like, are you really serious? Are you putting Oregon at 3 in the nation.
Well, hear me out though. So Oregon's at 3, but Penn State is at 4. Penn State's two best wins are Wisconsin, who looked like garbage against Michigan this weekend, or not Michigan,
terrible
against Notre Dame. And then at number 5 is Iowa. Iowa looked great, but Iowa was losing to Colorado State in the second half at home. So really, like you said, outside of Alabama and Georgia, I really don't know who you place in there behind. Maybe Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a bye week last week. The team I'm most impressed with is Arkansas. Arkansas continues to get quality win after quality win.
KJ Jefferson.
They beat a Texas team that was, they just scored 70 points, I think, last week. And, they only put up 21 on a good Arkansas team. Arkansas just doubled up Texas A&M 20-10. I know A&M hasn't looked fantastic at times this year, but wow, what a game we got this week. 9 a.m. Georgia, Arkansas. That's going to be fantastic. But I mean, I think Oregon has the most impressive win of the year, going on the road, winning at Ohio State. I'll give you a little trivia question here. Do you know the last team to go win at Ohio State was?
How? I couldn't tell you.
It was Baker Mayfield when Baker Mayfield planted the Oklahoma O right in the center, and then I think he spit on the field maybe too. But I think Oregon's deserving of there. Do they look like they can compete with Georgia and Bama? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone can. Can Georgia even compete with Bama? That's the real question.
Yeah,
probably not. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I think you give JT Daniels a chance after a couple of tough SEC games. I mean, let's be real. He's not SEC material. This dude was committed to USC. Fraud. So I think he takes one hit and he'll just crumble. But it's gonna be a game of two great coaches for sure. And I didn't know Georgia played Arkansas. That is a big SEC matchup to watch for sure.
I think top 7 or 8 matchup. But I mean, the thing about Georgia that I'm not super impressed with is people forget that. I mean, they had a pick 6 against Clemson, but man, Clemson looks awful. And Clemson was in that game against Georgia the entire time. And I know their offense is so bad. They can't score a touchdown. They can't buy a touchdown if it was Dabo Swinney handing out free cars to players. They couldn't buy it if they wanted to. And Georgia didn't really steamroll a bad Clemson team at all. So I'm really interested to see how legit this Arkansas team is. And I'm really excited for the Oregon State-Washington game this week too, because although Washington's not a good team, I think they're a lot better than they performed so far. And, for a team that's really struggling like Washington, if Oregon State can go out and win this game against Washington, I will put a lot of respect on Oregon State's name and probably circle that game as, probably the biggest remaining game for ASU, because I don't think Utah or USC are going to fill it anymore. I might come back to bite my words. USC easily has the talent to turn it around, but as of right now, if they even want to share a title in the Pac-12 South, they need ASU and UCLA to lose twice. So I don't think that's happening. And so I really am curious to watch this Oregon State-Washington game this week, and I think that could be a really good litmus test for the Beavers.
Yeah, I think you're right. And just a little side note, I think Dabo's a little more concerned about how fast he is and how good he looks when he runs out.
That was so funny.
Did you see the video where they did the
he ran out?
Water? He sure is fast. Oh my gosh, hilarious.
Oh my God.
I think the primetime game is, and this is maybe a little semi-early segment into the next segment.
No, we can transition over. We have plenty to talk about.
This game is truly the biggest game of the Pac-12, I think, this season. Especially when you look at these two quarterbacks last year, or I'm sorry, not last year, or I think it was last year or the year before. We went to UCLA, played in the Rose Bowl, and DTR came out on top. And I'm sure you'd love to inform the crowd, what happened. What happened? This is very, very emotionally scarring for you. I know it's hard to talk about, but what happened when you open your mouth to DTR on Instagram? What did that man do to you?
He referred to me as half a meatball. My 175-pound frame is a half a meatball, apparently.
First time we have either one of us have ever heard that insult, and I don't think we were insulted. I thought it was honestly hilarious.
And by the way, Mr. Half a Meatball over there, he deleted his comment because he was scared, just like he's scared of ASU.
Charmin soft. But no,
He also called
Bruins
out some of
game,
our friends last year at UCLA
Sam
or at
Collins.
Bruin Dash because they were talking great on him for about I think like 10 minutes, and then they went into like a 30-second clip of how he what he struggles in. DTR edited it and posted it on his Instagram. So
And he
I
made
think
it black and
UCLA.
white.
Sorry, what was that?
He made it black and white. It made it look all like sad and they're just
Yeah,
ragging.
and very dramatic edit. But I think UCLA is kind of an interesting game because I don't think they really stack up rivalry wise as much as USC and Utah. I think Utah because we always lose to them because their defense somehow always finds the way for us to have like less than 100 yards of offense. UCLA, we always have really good games. I don't know if you remember the game last year when we came back from missing some games from COVID and almost won that game late. Had a chance to win it late and couldn't. But it's tough because UCLA, when they have a player like DTR, it's very easy to dislike him because he's torched our team for a long time. So he's a very easy guy to dislike, considering that he's been in the Pac-12 for so long. We know what he's good at. We know what he can't do. We know that he's going to fling the ball downfield and he might risk it a little bit. He could fumble a few times, but I expect him to do well because ASU has always historically struggled with running quarterbacks. And I think DTR fits that bill perfectly where, Pac-12 doesn't have a lot of those currently this year. So do I think ASU is going to win? Yes, but we always save our score predictions for the very end. But, I'm really confident with the way ASU's defense is playing. Their pass defense especially. If you can limit DTR to being only a rusher, then it's going to really help your cause. But then with Charbonnet, I think his name is, and I forgot their other UCLA's other running back. Sorry, give me 1 second. But those two guys are balling out right now, and I think if you could really take away the passing game, you're really going to see a lot of improvement with the run game. It's going to help you, and you can give them run plays on first down for 3-4 yards, but you don't want to be put in 3rd and 1 situations where they could throw deep or run the ball on you, and I think that's the issue. I mean, Zach Charbonnet and Britton Brown combined for 180 yards last week. If you throw in DTR's 30 yards, that's over 200 yards rushing for just those three. So, DTR last week was 251 yards for 2 touchdowns. So it's a very solid game, and they ended up getting 11-point, pretty comfortable. I know it was close late, but 11 points is a pretty comfortable win. It doesn't come down to the last possession. And anytime you cover the spread, I call it comfortable. So, it's going to be a really fun week around the Pac-12 and, just for ASU fans and UCLA fans specifically.
Yeah, I think, obviously, we've been talking it up how big this matchup is, but, when you look at, I try to do a little bit more research about, looking at some matchups for UCLA's defense for our prolific offense. Because I was doing my research and this UCLA defense is senior led, and I think they're going to be this is going to be a matchup that they're going to be ready for.
Mhm.
These guys, most of these guys have experience with Jaden and maybe some of his tendencies. They're going to have a bunch of film on that. But what they don't have is they don't have much experience with this new Zach Hill offense because I don't think last year it wasn't really working all that great, and the year before that he wasn't at the school, so it wasn't even something to deal with. But I think we are fine-tuned enough to pick apart this defense, and like you talked about earlier in the show, it seems that we are a second half team, and that means that we make the correct adjustments at halftime generally, fix it throughout the game. I think this UCLA game is going to be a little different. I think Chip Kelly has got it going on over there right now, and they're going to make some adjustments at halftime too. So we have to make these adjustments. On offense, I think our defense is going to be pretty well stacked, and we're going to have a good idea of what DTR is going to do with the ball. They have a very balanced ground game, and they burn people on the play actions. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
DTR has 18 less completions than Jaden Daniels, and he has 111 more yards than him in passing. So that's pretty telling in itself. But I think what do you think about the over/under in this game? It's at 55.5. That's what it opened at.
I think the
Um,
over is going to get destroyed. I think it's going to be a high scoring game because I think ASU has a
it's in the
tendency to
30.
give up big plays for sure, and I think UCLA excels at big plays. So I think it's going to be a high scoring game. What about you?
I don't know. I'm gonna play devil's advocate naturally, but I think there's an opportunity for both of these defenses to step up. This is college football. This isn't the NFL. No matter how much we like to, bet the under. Maybe you're a big under guy if you're watching. But you know, I want to have faith in the Sun Devils defense, but at the same time, like I just said, this is college football. I think this has the chance to be a very high scoring, affair. And, we have to pull out all the stops. I mean, I want to see, Rashad White, he had 2 touchdowns last game along with Jaden, both on the ground. And, we're going to have to see more of that. We have to see elite decision making from Jaden Daniels in this game from an offensive standpoint, because he's going to have to, make the adjustments, on third down, whether he needs to use his feet or, dump it off to Rashad White. I think we need to see a lot more of Curtis Hodges clutch plays. I think he's kind of been doing that all season. When for the most part, when it's asked of him, I know you could say you look at his stat line last game. He didn't really do much, but he had like 2-3 catches for like 28 yards. But those are critical downs and critical situations. I think we have to excel in that field to pull out the win. I really do. I think Chip Kelly knows what he's doing, and DTR is going to be very dangerous. I don't know. It's going to be a crazy game. That's all I can say.
Yeah, something that I forgot about in the excuse me first segment was ASU's that trick play that they had with Ricky Pearsall, the touchdown pass. That is
Yeah.
fantastic stuff. College defenses, yeah, unless you're playing Alabama, like they fall for that more often than not. I would say it's over 50%. They fall for trick plays. I love the creativity, and as kids that have grown up, our generation has grown up playing backyard football and one-on-ones with your buddies all the time. There should be an endless amount of trick plays. So if you're worried about giving up the playbook or whatever, this is the game. This is the game where you should unload everything. I think this is the week that we find out about a lot of teams around college football, whether it's ASU and UCLA, whether it's Arkansas and Georgia. We see Ole Miss play Alabama. I think that's going to be real telling, so we can see who Ole Miss really is. Cincinnati travels to Notre Dame. That's another top 10 matchup. And then Oregon, Stanford, as we mentioned. Rutgers is playing great. They're at home for Ohio State. There's just a lot of really good games. Sorry, what was that?
I said the hits just keep on coming.
I think there's a lot of really good games, and we're going to find out a lot. And then also at 6 p.m. at LSU, Auburn at LSU. I think that's going to be telling of who UCLA really is, because obviously the game will as well. But their best wins over LSU, then obviously lost to Fresno State. So is LSU legit? They're 3-1. They've won 3 straight since that UCLA loss. Not really any impressive wins, all that much, but they're not that good. Is the flat out thing. So can they beat a ranked team in Auburn and give UCLA a little more credit to that win? So, Josh, if you're comfortable giving it to me, ASU plus 3 or 4, I believe it's either 3 or 4. Give me your prediction, score prediction, and who covers the spread.
It's tough. I mean, first of all, let's just put one thing out of the way. This game is not coming down to a field goal. I'm just gonna put that out there. One team is gonna win by at least a touchdown, and no, I can't even tell you who's gonna cover the spread. I first of all, I don't think it's by a field goal. But what do you think?
Final score, as we are running out of time here. Final score: ASU 38. I will say UCLA of 32. 31. 38-31 final score. ASU wins. I think it's going to be very high scoring. I think the over gets smashed. And I think ASU wins, and really the winner of this game is in control of the Pac-12 South here on out, because everyone else has a loss. So That is all, though. Looking forward to the big game. We will be back, next Monday to recap this game. Hopefully talking about Arizona State being atop of the Pac-12 South and really in contention for a Rose Bowl, and really forget about that BYU game. So for Wills and Josh, go Sun Devils on Saturday, and we will see you next